Hello and welcome to Quarantini, Day Zero. I'm Dr. Eric Cervini. I should start by saying I am not a physician, but instead I have a PhD in gay history, and I have created Quarantini to be an LGBTQ plus book and film club for the quarantine era. And so each day, because so many of us are stuck in our homes, we can't go out and visit many of the parts of our gay world which we love so much. I figure this is the perfect opportunity to be looking backwards, where we can take a moment, reevaluate who we are as a community and where we've come from. So every day I'm going to be assigning either book chapters or films or documentaries that help us understand our past as a community, especially with an emphasis on how we've overcome even larger obstacles than the one we're facing right now. Because let me tell you something, if we as a community, our ancestors survived the Inquisition, they survived the Lavender Scare, they survived the AIDS crisis, we can certainly make it through today. And so I hope some of the things that I assign each and every day give us some hope and remind us that we need to stay vigilant. We have been scapegoated by those in power for way too long, especially by those who are feeling like they're failing, especially like those who are failing today and allowing this crisis to happen in the first place. So I think us sticking together, looking at stories from the past is more important than ever. How did I get this idea? Well, I released the latest version of my podcast this morning. At the very beginning, you may have seen it. We discussed some of the social media comparisons that have been made, comparing the AIDS epidemic to the corona pandemic. And after we filmed it, I had the idea, of giving a little bit more recommendations for what we can be doing to educate ourselves about some of those things that happened in the past, and also educate ourselves about what is happening right now and looking at some of those differences. One of the reasons I decided to start it is one of the things I was really excited about here in Los Angeles was starting my own gay book club. Unfortunately, we were supposed to meet this upcoming weekend. We definitely will not be doing that. But I wanted to make that even bigger and make it accessible to everyone. There's so many of you guys who are so excited, and I'm so honored to have you listening or watching my videos. And I want to make you have the ability to actually participate. And so even though a lot of places, physical locations where gay culture exists currently, where LGBTQ plus culture exists now, are closed down, this is an opportunity where we can say, let's look backwards, let's look at those places in the past and how we got where we are, and we can come out of this crisis stronger than ever. And so I've heard a lot of demand for books and movies, people asking for suggestions. I heard the name of a new cocktail that people were mixing called the Quarantini. It rhymes with my last name. I said, you know what, I am definitely going to snatch that up for myself. And so I don't have a martini with me now. I did not get the chance to go and get a martini glass from the store, but I hope to get one maybe delivered. And so we can be chatting every single evening about some of these either films or books that I'll be assigning each and every day over a glass of a martini or whatever your drink of choice is. That's something I learned when I was at Cambridge getting my PhD. Something that they do over there that I really wish we had more of here is this idea of informal education, where you can learn so much drinking a glass of wine, having a conversation with a professor and a student, two professors, two students, where you doesn't need to be someone lecturing. So that's what I'm really trying to be emulating here, except digitally, which hopefully will work. It'll be a great experiment to try during this little interesting time in human history. And so one of the things, moving to what will be what I'll be assigning tonight, there have been these comparisons between the AIDS crisis and the coronavirus. And what I think is especially interesting, which I mentioned in the podcast this morning, is a lot of the high up people who are managing this crisis are exactly the same people who are managing the AIDS crisis. So allowing us to understand who these people are and hopefully what they've learned will give us the tools to really be critical observers of what's happening right now. The number one person who right away when I saw him get up onto the podium at some of the White House conferences is Anthony Fauci. He's in right now the White House Coronavirus Task Force, but he has been the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease since 1984. All right, so this is one of the most cited, most celebrated doctors on earth when it comes to studying HIV. And he was also the person in charge just as we were confronting a very, very scary time in the 80s and 90s. And so this is the same guy. He's older. I believe he's around 79. And so I wanted to give you the chance to see what has happened in the past in a very, very similar time. And one of the other doctors said, and I've seen this retweeted, one of the doctors who's on that panel has said, we had another silent epidemic, HIV. And I want to recognize the HIV epidemic was solved by the community. The HIV advocates and activists who stood up when no one was listening and got everyone's attention. We're asking that same sense of community to come together and to stand up against this virus. And if everybody in America does that, as we ask over the next 15 days, we will see a dramatic difference. And we won't have to worry about ventilators. We won't have to worry about the ICU beds. So tonight, given that statement, this was by a doctor who has done great work before when it came to HIV, given that this is the official line coming from the White House, she was standing right next to President Trump. The assignment that I have for tonight is to watch the film, How to Survive a Plague. It's a documentary. It came out in 2012 by filmmaker David France. It chronicles the rise and the success of ACT UP, also known as the AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power. And this was an activist group that demonstrated against the Reagan and Bush administrations and also pharmaceutical companies to force access and treatment and research for HIV in the middle of a time when the Reagan administration, the Bush administration were literally laughing publicly in press conferences at the idea of a gay plague. So what have I done to make this accessible? I have found the cheapest place that you can get it is currently on Amazon. You can get a link to it on the website that I've just created. I just launched it. Hopefully it's working fully. It's Quarantini, Quarantini dot, not .com, dot LGBT. So that's Quarantini dot LGBT. And so there we have day 0, which is where we're at now. I have links to the documentary. One way, if you don't want to pay anything at all, Amazon lets you sign up for a trial for 7 days for one of its services. So you can sign up for a trial. It's free. Just don't forget to cancel the trial after 7 days after you watch this film. But that's one way to make sure you're not paying anything at all. Because ideally, I want this to be as cheap as possible for everyone. So go to quarantini.lgbt. Usually I'll have a quarantini or some sort of martini that I, as Dr. Cervini, will be drinking. So I promise I won't use that rhyme too much, and hopefully you don't get sick of it. But so tonight, watch it, or by tomorrow evening, and then I will be going live once again at 7 p.m. Pacific, that is 10 p.m. Eastern, to talk about the film. All right, and what I want you to ask tonight is, what are the similarities and differences between the current pandemic and the AIDS crisis? All right, given what the White House is saying that, activists in the past stood up and they're the reasons that we were able to conquer HIV. I want you to ask, were we really fighting a virus, or were we fighting something else? Maybe we were fighting a government, or maybe we were fighting a pharmaceutical company. Ask yourself, is it really that simple that we stood up and said, stay home, don't go to bathhouses, use safe sex? Is that really what the fight was? So I will leave the answer open to you. But for now, go ahead, go to quarantini.lgbt. Tomorrow, we will discuss it. You can either comment here on this video with your thoughts on the documentary. Maybe you've seen it already, or you can shoot me an email at quarantini@ericcervini.com. I'll put this all in the actual post on my website. And tell me what you think and what your answer is. What are the similarities and differences between now and the 80s and 90s? And I will pick some of my favorite responses. I won't be biased. I'll try to be as objective as possible in picking them, and we'll discuss them tomorrow. And then I will be assigning the next thing for the evening. Will only be anytime we have reading to do. I'll only assign like a couple dozen pages at most. So it's something that'll take like 30 minutes. And even if you fall behind, you can catch up over the weekend or something like that. So tomorrow, spoiler alert, I will be assigning one of my favorite books, Giovanni's Room, by James Baldwin. It is one of the first LGBT books ever written where the character is openly gay and they are treating it in a completely, not medical sense, right? Where it's just a character, just like a human being, and one of the most phenomenal books of all time. So that's Giovanni's Room. So go ahead. I would suggest ordering it now. Then you can use a link that I put on my website to the first chapter. I have a PDF of it, and then you can read that maybe tomorrow night. But I would suggest, just because, it takes a couple days to actually get the book. Go ahead, go to quarantini.lgbt to get the links to the documentary for tonight. And then in preparation, you can go ahead and order Giovanni's Room. It's an amazing, gorgeously written love story based in Paris between two men. It is phenomenal. It is heartbreaking in some ways, but also just so comforting to me, because I think it's just the way that Baldwin writes is phenomenal. Go ahead and go to quarantini.lgbt. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment here. And most importantly, stay healthy, stay inside. There are plenty of food delivery services out there that can make sure that you are getting everything that you need. But otherwise, I cannot wait to talk about this film with you guys. I think you will be blown away. I promise. I avoided watching a lot of AIDS films for a long time because I was scared of that emotional impact. And I promise this is a story of victory. It's a story of how, even at great cost, activists were able to eventually conquer prejudice. And that's something that we really, really need to see now, especially as we are in a time when those in power are going to be looking for those to blame. And so we need to be vigilant more than ever. Someone is asking if that's a fake plant. No, it's not. And you can tell it's fake it's not fake because of how few leaves it has, because I sometimes forget to water it. And I also saw a question if you can join from the UK. Of course, it may be a little trickier to find some of the books or the movies in your own country, but yes, absolutely. And even if you're not able to join when I'm live, it'll still be saved. And I'll have it on all my social platforms. And then you can join us whenever you want and go at your own pace. So this will be kind of like a class, but hopefully one that's really fun and one where, we actually get a bit of community as well. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a great Tuesday. Stay inside, and I will see you tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. And thanks so much for joining. Let me see if I can figure out how to do